Hey everyone, it's time to spark another conversation in the Triple Finale Career Lounge, where we blend real conversations with smart tech to help you find that career that you're excited to pursue.
You know what? Most people don't realize this, but your resume actually has to make it through about 3 different layers before you ever get close to an interview. 3 layers. Think about that. And honestly, when you understand this, the whole job search process starts to make a lot more sense. Think of it like this. At the very top layer is the hiring manager, right? That's the person that you think you're writing your resume for, but before your resume ever gets to them, there's another layer in between. That second layer is the recruiter, and their job is to figure out which candidates look strong enough to move forward to make it onto the short list. But before that layer, there's another layer. Yes, before the recruiter ever sees your resume, it has to pass through that first layer, which is the technical layer. And this layer includes optical character recognition, or OCR, that reads your resume. It includes the applicant tracking system, or ATS, which categorizes the elements on your resume. It includes AEDT, or automated employment decision tools, which help match and rank candidates. And most of all, these systems are impacted by AI, driving the entire process. So really, every resume has to do these 3 things. It has to be readable by the technology. It has to make sense to and be appealing enough for the recruiter to recommend it forward in the process. And it has to impress the hiring manager enough for you to receive an invitation to interview. Whew. Your resume really has to do a lot of heavy lifting. And you know what makes this even crazier? Once you finally get your resume just right for one particular position at one particular company, you usually have to do this whole process all over again to tailor it for the next position at the next company. Savvy candidates understand that if you really want your resume to make it through all those 3 layers, you shouldn't be sending the exact same resume to another company for another position without making the right adjustments to that resume for that role at that company. Think of it like a custom suit. A custom suit looks amazing because it's tailored for the person who's wearing it. Well, your resume works the same way. It should be tailored for the role that you want at the company to which you're applying. And yes, that does take more time. But you know what? This is exactly why some candidates consistently get interviews, while other candidates feel like they're applying into a black hole. No wonder this process can feel exhausting at times. That's a lot of work. But once you understand how these 3 layers work, you can stop guessing and start being strategic about how to build your resume. In this video series, we're going to break down how modern hiring technology actually works, including the optical character recognition, or OCR, the applicant tracking system, or ATS, automated employment decision tools, or AEDTs, and the resume optimization strategies that help candidates compete effectively in today's AI-assisted hiring environment. Okay, let's get started.
So at this point, you might be wondering, why does this whole technology layer even exist in the first place? Why can't recruiters just read every resume themselves? Well, here's the reality. The volume of applicants today is dramatically higher than it used to be. In fact, studies show the number of applicants per job has grown significantly in recent years, and many recruiters now receive hundreds of resumes for a single opening. Some roles, especially remote roles, can receive far more than that, reaching into the thousands in some cases. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Applying to jobs is easier than it's ever been. You can apply from your phone. You can apply with one click. You can even apply to 10 jobs in one evening while sitting on your couch watching TV. And this click to apply made the entire process so effortless that a large number of applicants simply look at the job title and think, "Oh, this sounds cool." Then they click apply and their resume is added to the stack. This single feature has changed the volume of application activity for just about every job posted online. There was a time when you had to mail in a resume or even show up in person in order to express interest in an opening. applicants were much more selective during this time period. So naturally, companies needed a way to organize all of this. And this is where hiring technology comes into play. Today, a very large percentage of companies use some form of hiring automation, or AI, to help manage applications, and nearly all, that's 99%, of Fortune 500 companies use an applicant tracking system to organize candidates. Some reports show that over 80% of recruiters now use AI tools to help review or screen resumes simply because the sheer volume of applicants per job has become too large to manage manually. Technology helps organize candidates and identify potential matches. That being said, ultimately, humans are still responsible for making hiring decisions. Even with all of this technology, companies can't just blame a system. If something goes wrong, they are legally responsible for all of their hiring decisions. And this is how it works. Companies can't just say, hey, the system did it if something unfair happens. They still have to follow employment labor laws, anti-discrimination laws, and disability accommodations under regulations like the EEOC guidelines. As an example, New York City passed something called the Local Law 144, and this requires companies using certain automated hiring tools to conduct bias audits, publish summaries of those audits, and then notify candidates when those tools are being used. This type of checks and balance procedure is definitely a growing trend. So, instead of being frustrated with technology, the smarter move is to understand it and then use that knowledge to your advantage. You can start by making sure that your resume can be clearly understood and then read by the system's optical character recognition feature. Then, it makes it possible for the recruiter to review you and possibly even recommend you for a candidate who gets selected to be on the shortlist. And this is where you want to land so that the hiring manager can extend an invitation to interview, and that's in a best-case scenario.
Do you remember those 3 layers that we talked about earlier? The technical layer, layer number 1 that goes to the recruiter, layer number 2, which ultimately goes to the hiring manager, layer number 3. Well, in order to get to that top layer where you ultimately want your resume to get to that hiring manager, you really have to understand the details of that first layer, the technical layer. So let's take a moment to discuss this technical layer in more detail. Once you submit your resume, there's actually a sequence of things that typically happen behind the scenes in that first technical layer. First of all, AI is often involved throughout the entire process. So I want you to think of AI as that engine that's helping to power all of these other systems, okay? The first real step that your resume goes through is that it has to be read or interpreted by optical character recognition, or OCR. OCR is the technology that reads the text from your resume and converts it into data that the AT system can understand, or the ATS, the applicant tracking system. This is why formatting of your resume matters so much, because if the OCR can't clearly read your resume, well, then the rest of the process won't work properly. Let me say that again. The single most important step in this process happens when optical character recognition works properly. It looks at how you arrange your resume, what symbols and characters you use, whether or not you attempt to add graphics to your resume, and even the file format that you select can all impact that OCR part of the process. If your resume can't get through this phase, well then, you might as well not have applied to that position at all. Once your resume is readable by successfully passing through that OCR phase, then applicant tracking system, or ATS, comes into play. The ATS takes that information and organizes it into categories like your skills, your work experience, your education, and your job titles. This allows recruiters to search and compare candidates more easily. Now, during this entire process, most companies use additional tools called AEDTs, or Automated Employment Decision Tools, and these help rank and score candidates. These are tools that companies use to compare candidates or identify strong matches, And these can include resources like resume screening tools, skills assessments, or candidate matching software. Those are all AEDTs. Now, because this is the phase where measurement comes into play, these tools help companies compare candidates by examining their experience, their skills and qualifications, and then ranking these and other critical elements with the job requirements. These rankings can show up as match percentages, scores, or even a simple recommendation list used to guide recruiters in the decision-making process and help recruiters manage large applicant pools more efficiently. So, if we simplify the flow, it often looks something like this. Your resume gets read by the OCR. Your information then gets organized by the ATS. And then the AEDT resources help match and rank candidates so that the recruiter can decide who to recommend for the shortlist that will eventually go forward to the hiring manager for review. Okay, that's the process. And throughout all of this, you've got AI powering the entire process. And in most cases, AI is becoming a lot more prominent, and we'll talk about that in just a bit.
Once your resume gets through that technical layer, well, that's when you can finally get the opportunity to impress the recruiter and move closer to that interview. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to best position your resume to clear the OCR phase of this process, which file formats tend to work best, and one simple test that you can use to check to see whether or not your resume can actually be read correctly through the OCR and organized properly by the ATS. Because if the system can't clearly read your resume, it can't properly organize your information. And if it can't organize your information, it can't recommend you. And that's something you definitely want working in your favor. Do you know someone who's searching for a job in this tough job market? How's their job search going? If you or someone you know would like support gaining additional strategic insight like what we covered in this video, please visit us at www.triplefinale.com. That's www.triplefinale.com. And check out our career marketing and branding courses that you can take solo or online in an instructor-led group setting. We're here for you.